Welcome to Season 3 of The Lifestyle Chase, and I'm your host, Chris Little. This podcast features high performers who have found a way to live their best life while balancing their health, wellness, friends, and family. To help this podcast grow, please share it on social media, rate 5 stars, tell your friends, and check out the past 140 episodes and counting. You can follow me on Instagram at Christian Little and at The Lifestyle Chase. Thanks for listening. Let's get started. So welcome to episode 149 of The Lifestyle Chase. And today I am joined by Jay Downton. So how are you today? How's your day been going so far?
I'm doing extremely well. Today's been a very positive day. I had a call. We're running a little bit late to kick this off, and it's because I got a very interesting phone call that has been something we've been working on for a long time that we just got some very positive news about. So, very good day. Very good day.
That's awesome. I mean, the world needs more positive news in times like this. On March 15th, what's the first thing that went through your mind? That is a memorable time of 2020. What were your first thoughts?
So the week before that was a very amazing week. We had, with Oilersnation, we do a lot of travel where we send people. We send groups outside of Edmonton to watch games in Vegas or Calgary, and we also bring people in to watch games in Edmonton. And we had this awesome group of 26 Germans that we got to host in Edmonton and just had the time of our lives. And one of the games we were supposed to go to was that one, I believe it was on the 9th or 10th or whatever, against Winnipeg, where during that game, the NBA canceled their season or postponed their season due to COVID. And the reality of COVID was getting real. And then we had to spend the next 4 days with them because they weren't leaving until the 13th, I believe, 13th or 14th, where, we just had to make the best of it and, mitigating and dealing with the potential doubts of not having flights home for these guys and all that stuff. But, nonetheless, we made the best of a very interesting situation and had a really fun week, and then shot out of that into the severity. And while this was happening, I'm start thinking, well, what's going to happen to our business? What does this mean? We're hearing, borders closing. We're hearing, of lockdowns starting to happen. What does that mean to us, and how's that going to affect us? And are we going to survive it? So that was a little bit of backstory to March 15th when, the lockdown button gets pushed. Yeah, it was a very interesting day because normally if there's a giant fire like that, the stress response from me just flares up, and the fireman in me comes and I've got my big hose and I'm where do I direct this and how do I put this out? But I was just eerily holy crap, we might not survive this. But for some reason, because it was so beyond my control, I didn't feel stressed out about it, which was so weird because I've never felt that, because I've had to deal with some big fires in my past. And, it's that stress response to jump into the fight to fix it was there, where initially when COVID hit, it was, oh my God, this is beyond my control. And this could be the demise of everything I'm involved with, because I don't know enough at that point. I had no information. It was uncertain. I don't know how long this is going to last. But I'm seeing the impact it's caused. So that day hits, and all of a sudden my phone's blowing up, whether it be our franchisees, Oodle Noodle, being what are we going to do? How am I going to afford our rent? To, our sponsors and partners on the Nation Network calling and saying, hey, Jay, we have to pause our deal. And me as a business owner have to be empathetic with that. And, watching our revenue drop 90% over the course of 72 hours. And all this stuff kind of just hitting you, being okay, well, I had this weird piece because it was beyond my control. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to create a list and just start kind of chipping away at it. And the stress I was really trying to put on myself during this time was like, Jay, this is the craziest crisis of your life. But also during this time, it's deal with the crisis stuff. But the pressure you need to put on yourself is unlocking the opportunity that something like this can provide. And that's where I put a lot of stress on myself. So kind of a long answer about what I felt on that day or around that day, but like so many things were happening in and around that time, and kind of just how I absorbed it and responded to it was super interesting. I posted a video on LinkedIn and I did a written post because I just felt the need to do it because I'm assuming I assumed I was not the only one feeling this, and there's others that were probably responding to it differently. Like, this was beyond your control. You did nothing wrong to have this, like to be going through this, to have this impact on your business. So like, you know, this is a human moment where we're in this together, and to let everyone know that like, it's not your fault, and let's just try to focus on getting out of this because it's about weathering this storm, and don't let it sink you. And, you know, because that's what we do, is we beat ourselves up when something negative like this happens, and, you know, then it's our fault, and then we shut down, and the next thing you know, you can quickly be sinking. So, you know, I just felt the need to like share that message because it was just my heart talking, and I've never posted something that got so much attention before in my life because I think a lot of us were feeling that because everyone was feeling it. So I said to you before this started, I like to talk. So that's my long-winded answer to March 15th.
That was perfect. I mean, I had a feeling that would get you because, like, I saw the post and I was like, wow, I connected with that post. I know a lot of my audience will connect to it, even like people from the US who don't know who you are. But that brings us to, I want people to know who you are. Like, what do you do? How would you describe yourself at a party? What makes you up? Like, what makes you who you are?
Yeah, it's always, I get asked, you know, what do I do? And it's an interesting answer because I don't know. I'm just this like Edmonton in the grand scheme of things is a small town, right? So I'm a small town guy who just puts his head down and like, you know, I'm a passionate guy and I pursue my passion type things. And now I've created this kind of, this web of businesses that kind of been the byproduct of it. So, I'm the co-founder of Oilersnation.com, with the mother company being the Nation Network. We're 16 sites, independent sports media company with a predominant focus in hockey. Started as a passion project in 2007 with the launch of Oilersnation because we wanted to create, my partner and I wanted to create a company that, or a business that would excite us. And all roads led to hockey. And we built a small business off of that and saw some early success and started scaling that out to now, you know, we're a network of 16 sites and an online community that we're speaking to in normal times in season of, you know, 4.5 to 5 million people. So kind of a unique digital community we've created. And now, you know, building out the business and monetization elements of that, but sports fan and lifestyle content around hockey is the MO for the Nation Network. And then I'm involved with Oodle Noodle. Oodle Noodle is now a 14-store franchise chain that started in Edmonton by our founder, Sunny Pham, with the White Ave location in 2005. We came on aboard. Sunny invited us to come aboard in 2010, and we downloaded Sunny's brain into a franchise concept. And Sunny built a factory because his dream was to supply his franchise company. And we created a partnership and started that. And, you know, we're now at 14 stores, soon to be 15. We just locked up our 15th franchisee. And a couple other in the works, and then also working on our expansion plans to leave Edmonton. But we focused on Edmonton because, you know, mainly we're here and kind of stuck here stuck here in a good way with all the things that we have on the go. So we felt it was important to complete the Edmonton market before we left it. And plus we had a good understanding of it and, some influence with it, with our following with the nation and all that. Cause a lot of the stuff with Oodle Noodle early on and still to this day was launched off the back of Oilersnation, which was kind of interesting, an interesting dynamic. And then, a passion project of ours that's turned into a business was, we wanted to solve the problem of not having any amenities in the river valley. Through our connection and work on the tourism side with Oilersnation, we do a lot of work with Edmonton tourism, and we would see how they market Edmonton to the world. And a lot of the photos were about the river valley. And, that's so interesting because we like to brag about it, but there's nothing down there to keep us there outside of going for a run, a walk, and a bike ride, which is great things. But like, how come you can't get a coffee, a burger, a beer, a cookie? There's a lot of people coming down there. So we thought if we built an amenity, people would come. So that was the hypothesis, or thesis, I guess, for Little Brick. So Little Brick, we bought this super old house, 1903, that has an amazing historical connection to Edmonton. It's the cafe and the Little Brick house is located in Riverdale. Riverdale used to be a giant brickyard, and the owner of the brickyard, this is the house that we occupy now with Little Brick Cafe and the Oilersnation offices. So there was an interesting story to preserve with this house, and that's why we called the cafe Little Brick, because the owner of the brickyard's name was J.B. Little. So we wanted to keep his legacy alive because a lot of the bricks that came down here from Riverdale are remaining in the historical buildings that are still standing today. So we wanted to create that connection. So we came, restored the house, opened up a cafe, put our offices in to cover the payment should the cafe not work, or should the cafe need more runway while we figure out what it needs to be or what it needs to offer to make a go of it. And Little Brick was born. So it was our litmus test to see if we build an amenities, will people show up? And if they do, if it's well supported, can we do another? Little Bricks kind of led into the bigger parent company, which is the River Valley Company. And River Valley Company is to do real estate development, but not development in like with the bad word development of the River Valley. And that's by building unique real estate projects and partnering up with cool local creatives to provide more amenities to the River Valley, and also help build and support our local, regional, and global tourism. So some fun things that Little Brick has done to support that is Little Brick's been designated a attraction by Edmonton Tourism. We've hosted many global tourist groups here for brunch and shared the story of Little Brick to them. We've been featured in En Route magazine. We did a video with KLM that got put on the planes there when promoting Edmonton from a video content side. I also got to do a how to play hockey video with the star that they brought there, Karen Scoresguard, I believe her name was. We had a lot of fun at West Edmonton Mall doing that. So, that's all kind of leading to like helping support the tourism economy. So our next project down the street from Little Brick is going to be, it's called the Umberville Block. It's a 3-story mixed use building where we're going to have a bakery called Bread and Butter because Little Brick has a lot of baking needs. Our community is also asked to have a bakery in it. We're very engaged with the community of Riverdale and the surrounding areas. And then we're also opening up a bistro called Dog Patch. So Dog Patch, its name comes from all the workers that worked at the brickyard lived down in Riverdale. They built their own kind of little town, and that was called Dog Patch. So we wanted to keep the story of that alive. And then the name of the building, Umberville Block, is named after a Métis lady by the name of Louise Umberville, who was the matriarch of Fort Edmonton. So she's got a very interesting story and essentially ran Fort Edmonton. So played a very pivotal role in the early beginnings of Edmonton. So we wanted to keep and preserve that story as well. So to add more elements to what's going on in that building is we're putting our offices on the second floor. And then on the third floor, the cool thing is we're opening up a bed and breakfast. Thinking, the thesis being that if we bundle, well, the River Valley's cool. Staying in the River Valley sounds cool, but bundling the experience and the amenities of Little Brick and Bread and Butter and Dog Patch into your stay as a package, or to enhance your experience, I guess, for staying with us, we think that's a value that people would subscribe to. And it also allows us to say that these are the first hotel rooms in the River Valley in over 100 years. So another long answer for you.
That was awesome. Like, that's so much that I really didn't know. I mean, I see Little Brick pop up on social media all the time. What I love about it is seeing how many local businesses are able to collaborate within those walls. Just all the different things that can be sold as a product, like if it's produced locally. It's just cool to see. It's, as you said, Edmonton is kind of like a small town. Like, it doesn't seem to matter how many people actually live here. It kind of just feels like there's about 500 people, because it's like everybody knows everybody.
Yeah. But that's part of its charm.
Exactly.
Right.
So have you lived in Edmonton your whole life?
Yep. Born and raised. I grew up the unorthodox way, in the sense of I grew up downtown before downtown was a thing. And it was mainly older people that lived downtown. So I was like one of the few kids that drove everyone crazy because I was young and loud. But I remember days walking down Jasper Ave and like absolute ghost town. No cars in the street. You could play a street hockey game uninterrupted on a Saturday downtown, which was, I remember that vividly as a kid. And then at the age of 10, moved to the West End. And then still felt like my heart was downtown. So as soon as I could, move back to the downtown area.
Well, that's so crazy to hear that perspective, like for you to see downtown in that state. I mean, obviously in the last like 10 or less years, downtown has totally transformed. But like even more than 10 years ago, but not too much more, downtown as it was still wasn't that busy. Like if all that rambling makes sense, like, I mean, I know that I had a job downtown in about 2011, and it was nothing like it is now with the Ice District added to it. When you were going around playing hockey in the streets and stuff, like, was there stuff that sort of inspired you, or stuff that you thought about, or things that kind of connect to how you make your choices in business today?
That's an interesting question. A memory came to mind. So our first franchise location of Oodle Noodle is in the Intact Insurance Building on Jasper and 108. And before that building was there was this old decrepit building there. And I'd walk by it because me and my mom would always go shopping at the Bay. So Bay Enterprise Station, or what U of A has taken over the Hudson Bay building there, but that used to be a bay, and I used to go there as a kid all the time. And I'd walk by this building being like, oh, like this building's old and growing. Like the businesses are all like shut in it. I'm like, this is like a weird old, like gross building, like as a kid. And if I could have told that kid that, like, actually it's going to be a beautiful building and you're going to own a business in there, I bet you his mind would explode. Yeah, it's for me, everything that we've done in business, and I think hopefully, as I kind of explained what we're up to, has a very strong Edmonton component. So for me, where my fuel for business comes is from, trying to be one of the people, and there's so many people now that are staying here and investing their time and their talents and efforts in Edmonton. And that's kind of the renaissance we're seeing from even 10 years ago. All the cool creatives and experiences in our culinary scene that's just kind of blossoming, which is just phenomenal because this helps put your city on the map. Is like, for me, it is that. It's like helping put Edmonton on the map. The only time I felt that Edmonton was the big city, the Emerald City, is when I'd go visit my family in Saskatchewan. Right. And they'd be like, holy cow, Edmonton, like it's crazy. But like, I remember being, you go to Calgary and people from Calgary shit on you because you're from Edmonton. You go, every year, when we were young in our early 20s, we would go to Mexico on a big, group trip. We did that every year. We did it for like 5 years. And you'd go to the pools, you'd start kind of recognizing a Canadian accent and kind of connecting you're from Canada. And then you say, oh, where are you from? And they say Toronto. And they ask where you're from. And they say Edmonton. And then they go, oh. And like you're immediately judged for some reason. So this to me kind of just developed a giant chip on my shoulder. Like I like being an underdog. I kind of thrive in it. And it's kind of what lights my fire. But, it just developed this giant chip on my shoulder. So that is what has been motivating me to do the things we do, because all of it kind of leads back to promoting and helping Edmonton be a cooler city. Like we're just playing a small part. But we're not the only ones. It's like a whole mindset shift, right? Like, 15 years ago, people would ask me, where should I go eat? Well, I would say Earl's, Joey's, or Moxie's. Right. Like, but like, and like, and then one day I was just like, geez, like I'm embarrassed. That's all I know and say, but our options were really chain centric at that point. But then, that started shifting and cool independent artisan shops started opening up and started changing the culture, and people that would normally leave Edmonton to go pursue these things, or they did leave to pursue it and realize, holy cow, like moving to Vancouver and trying to get in the culinary scene or being a chef, like I'm just working to pay rent and that's it. Like I have no life. Like, holy cow, if I go to Edmonton, lower cost of living, like a better opportunity for me to go back and share my talents, and I can actually like live a good life. Like there's a huge value proposition to Edmonton. So people were leaving and coming back, and people were realizing that actually, no, I want to double down and invest in my city. And it's like this collective mindset that's allowing Edmonton to go through this change that we're seeing right now. That's, putting us on the map, we're already on the map, but it just be getting a little bit more notoriety, kind of everyday type thing. So for me, like that's the problem I want to help fix. And, all of our businesses that we do have a connection to that. And that's what is my motivation for business.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, to be able to kind of reflect on, just how much our city has changed with the different restaurants popping up. And I can relate. Like, I mean, I would have been a lot younger when I was thinking of like the Keg being a go-to place, mm-hmm. or any of the franchise restaurants. But now, like, if somebody asks me, I can list off all kinds of places that are only in Edmonton and are mm-hmm. special because you can't find them anywhere else. And half the time I know the owners, which makes it even more special. I want to take us into the time machine to the year 2007. And what were you thinking then when you were kind of thinking of Oilersnation as like sort of like a project that you might pursue?
Yeah, so to kind of take it just a little bit further back and what led us to Oilersnation. So my first ever business was pub crawls. So before pub crawls were a big thing, me and my business partner started doing pub crawls. I went on one that he did with some other guys. I'm like, this is so much fun. I think I can help. Like, if you ever want that, let's partner and let's do that. And we did it. We sold our first bus, and then kind of the rest is history for the next kind of 3 years of our life. Because it was a lifestyle play that I was, going out was a big part of my life when I was young. That was kind of like, you turned 18, it's like, wow, now I can go out. Like, that's the whole thing. Like, your weekends were designed around that. You went to your friend's house at like 4 in the afternoon to like get ready for your day, and you'd have all these events, and then you would head out, and then it was the next morning, and this, like, it was the whole lifestyle. And that was like kind of how, me and my friends kind of, that's where we got our fun. And that fit well into pub crawl. So it was something I was passionate about. So I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone and start calling people and doing all that fun stuff. So much so we had enough success that it paid for our school. So our first business venture was a success in the sense of its mission was, give me some walking around money and pay for my school. And this is great. And it funded the lifestyle I was into at the time. So it was a great fit. So we tried to parlay that into doing a bar. Logical thing, pub crawls, you're going to bars, so why not, be the bar? Well, we went with, the big thing at the time was like the drama of owning a bar, the fights, the this, the that, like, and that was something we didn't want to be a part of. So we came up with a concept to be like a live music venue, with like a blues live music venue, and just knowing that because that's the crowds that attracted were like low maintenance in the sense of there was no drama. We could open shorter hours. We didn't have to be open till 2-3 in the morning. We could be closed at midnight or 1. But at the same time, we didn't know anything about blues music or anything about the community around blues music. So we launched that, and we also wanted to bolt on a sports component because obviously we loved hockey, but the sports component got taken from us because there was the year-long hockey strike. So we launched this blues concept, quickly realizing like, I don't know how to go to market and pitch this because I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. We're signing up bands. We don't know if they're good or not. Like, we have no one directing us, and sure, people are showing up, but we didn't know that the blues audience wasn't going to come and drink 20 beers. They were coming to have a beer and a meal, right? So like, did not fit the model that we needed. So we made a lot of bad decisions and bad guesses on a concept we knew nothing about and weren't passionate about. So we, I think it was 14 months, we quickly failed. And that bar was called Blue Chicago. So that was a giant eyesore once it was shut on the corner of 142nd and Stony Plain Road, that sat there for many years, that was always a reminder for me of what that was and what I should learn from it. So we always call that our MBA in business, because I learned a lot about business during that time, and made a lot of mistakes to learn from. And the whole thing from that was never again. Like, if we're doing something, it has to be something we're passionate about. Just like pub crawls, because I wasn't willing to go door to door repping our blues bar because I wasn't that passionate about it at all. Like, I loved the idea of a bar, but like, it wasn't the right brand version or whatever. I remember I would try to go and pitch it, but like, I was selling no sizzle. I was just going to do it because I was just doing it. And I was just saying words. There was no brand behind it. There was no motivation or passion behind it. So it didn't translate well. So, and for me, it felt like climbing Mount Everest every time I had to go do it. So like, very daunting. But, when we did the debrief, kind of gave myself 6 months of grieving after that. As we shut the bar, the funny thing is hockey comes back for the last couple months of while we're open, and that turns into the 06 Cup run, which is just like, like, we waited a year and we had this would have been different. But anyways, so going through the grieving process of failing, and then kind of to amping myself back up to want to get into business, we kind of did like a soul searching event of being like, okay, what didn't work with the bar? Why didn't it work? And if we're going to go into business, what does it need to be? And that's where we kind of did like our kind of core value type thing, where it was, we want to do something online because the opportunity to scale is very high. The cost of entry is very low. We didn't have a lot of money. We lost it all in the bar. So it kind of ticked a lot of boxes. So what is it that we want to do? And so all roads led to hockey. And we felt there was room on the shelf to create an independent site that was very fan focused and community focused, because this is going through the transition of like traditional media to kind of new age media, where in the traditional sense, you're always told kind of what to think. Like, here's the facts, or here's the numbers, or here it is, right? Like, and that's kind of how the news of our team was given to us, but it never referenced what the fans were thinking or any conversation amongst fans, or it engaged with the fans in any kind of content. It was very like, this is what the news is, take it or leave it type thing. So we thought there was an opportunity to kind of build a brand around the lifestyle of being a fan, by, and creating content around that, but also having mainstream and professional content, because you need to have some legitimate voices there. So that was kind of the whole antithesis to start the nation. And then during this time, what happened is the Oilers traded Ryan Smith, and we were all very upset about that. And so while we were kind of plotting and planning and developing what we wanted Oilers Nation to look like, we created a website called Bring Ryan Home, the protest site for when Smitty got traded. We created T-shirts with a missing person ad on the front. We got a store to pick them up and carry them. We sold 72 shirts. We thought we were Tommy Hilfiger. And the neat thing from all that is we had 30,000 people visit the site in like 3 weeks. So we're like, okay, well, this is the fire to light under our ass to do Oilers Nation, because there's people online that care about hockey. They care about Edmonton hockey. And it also smoked, we created enough noise that it smoked out a sponsor being like, this was interesting what you did here. What are you planning to do with this? And so then we pitched, we put Oilers Nation was a piece of paper and we dangled it in front of them, and they said, yeah, we'll sponsor that. So it kind of gave us, it just unlocked all this stuff and motivation to get Oilers Nation off the ground. So later that year in November of 2007, we launched Oilers Nation. So that's 2004 to 2007.
Well, I mean, that's important context. I wouldn't have appreciated everything about Oilers Nation having not known about everything that led up into it. Like, you talk about driving past like the former bar and having that kind of give you a sort of like a sinking feeling, or a feeling of like, lesson learned, MBA. Mm-hmm. In that moment where you initially knew show was over with that, how did you bounce back? Like, I know from my own experiences, anytime something's not worked out, I kind of feel like the world is crashing down. Like, how would you speak to something like that?
Like I said, I called it a grieving process, because initially when that happened, I was like, well, there it was. That was my chance at business. It didn't work. I'm just going to be a banker for the rest of my life, because that's what I was before the bar. And then I went back into banking after the bar. And so I'm like, I guess I'm a banker for life. And that's okay. And, I tried. And that was kind of the initial kind of feeling. And then, as that kind of subsides, because, you're just like, you failed, right? You screwed up. Like, you made a ton of mistakes, and it resulted in you losing, your money. And, it was trying to get that confidence to want to go do that again. I ultimately knew at some point I'd get back into business, but it just had to tick all the boxes. You can never be, you can plan as much as you want. You're never fully prepared to start a business, and that's fine. But, I wanted to tick the boxes, so I felt motivated to want to take the plunge again, because I knew it's something I ultimately wanted to get back into. But I had to feel that pub crawl energy. Yeah. So I talked to that like 20-year-old Jay, who was working the phones like crazy, because that's what you did. You didn't text people at that time. You just called everyone you could, landlines, cell phones, whatever. And I wanted to always make sure that I'm doing something that speaks to that guy. And the minute I did it, the minute I felt that guy, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm in. Like, that's kind of like, that's the motivation.
Yeah. So you're pretty established at starting one location and obviously starting numerous locations now, but at the point where you were at that tipping point, like you had Oilersnation or you had the first Oodle Noodle, what was happening when you're like, okay, we're going to do more of these, we're going to scale this out? Like, what was going through your mind and what kind of like support did you have to seek out?
Yeah, so Oodle Noodle was interesting for us because, we weren't really restaurateurs, and we just, 4 years earlier had a bar that failed. So, we weren't necessarily if you looked at our resume, we weren't the guys to do this. But I was probably one of the best customers of Oodle Noodle there was, of Sonny's. And I loved and believed in the product. And I knew that is what was going to push me through to get through and make sure this succeeds. So, we brought on consultants. We talked to peers in the industry. I was still in business financing. So I was a commercial lender at ATB Financial for 5 or 6 years. And when the Oodle Noodle opportunity came, I quickly stopped doing all the business lending, like the land lending, building purchase, all the other types of stuff. And I focused strictly on franchise financing. So I'm like, I need to learn how these guys get their money to build stores for their franchisees. And I want to learn from these brands. And I want to talk to the franchisees, what's working, what's not, what are the pain points, so I can kind of have an understanding of how we need to be as a franchisor and what level of support we need to provide to make sure that they are feeling value, and kind of building that out in terms of what our value proposition would be. And then also just structuring it so we could afford to fail early on, because we knew that we were going to make some mistakes. So we started the franchise version of Oodle Noodle. We opened 3 stores pretty quickly, probably over the course of 14 months. And we structured it so if we made a mistake, we could fix it. And we didn't have, we had control. So we didn't have a franchisee that could stop us or anything. If we had to change for the color of the brand isn't working, we need to paint the walls a different color, or we need to change, a supplier, or we need to change this. We couldn't be stopped because we knew we were going to make mistakes. And it was to protect our franchisees from us and ourselves from ourselves. And that's kind of was the first kind of 2 to 3 years of Oodle Noodle, was just let's get it open. Let's see what it looks like. Sonny's in the factory, so that we know the food that we're getting is going to be good, because Sonny's in control, and that's important. So we saw a lot of success from a revenue standpoint, but the operation back end standpoint, we had a lot of flaws. And it was basically because of the learnings of the bar that we implemented this strategy, so we could afford some room to fail. So we had time to fix it, so we could really build and strengthen our foundation to grow. Because the bar we bootstrapped, we opened with a $1 in the account. So relying on all these sales, we came in well financed. So we mitigated a lot of that stuff to just give us the runway we needed to have these failures. But knowing that we were going to recognize them quickly and not lull on them and sit on them, and come up with solutions and repair them as quick as possible. So that was the first 3 years of Oodle Noodle, was the operation of these 3 stores. I think we might have opened 1 more during that time, but we were moving really slow. So we really worked on tightening the system from an operations standpoint, I guess from every standpoint. And then from there, once we felt like the foundation was strong enough, we would then open 2 more stores and just kind of see, can the system handle it? Okay, everything's working. Okay, well now let's grow the team a little bit and bring on some smarter minds on the operations side. And now let's open 6 stores in the next 4 years or 3 years type thing. And so we kind of slowly just kind of putting our foot down on the growth pedal to now, we're at 14, soon to be 15 stores. And now kind of ready to kind of take into the next phase of the business, which would be, moving from being an Edmonton chain to a regional chain. So our provincial chain.
Yeah. So then with Oilersnation and just all the other nation branches, what has it been like? Because you talked about how you kind of, you create your own voice. And I mean, like, content is everything. You can make good, captivating content. You can make content that just falls on a deaf audience. Like, what is it that helps guide your intuition with who to have on the team? What have been some learning moments, etc.?
Yeah, there's definitely been a lot of learning moments with the nation. The one thing that like literally just the realization came about a year ago is, we can't build an Oilers Nation in every market in the sense of the look, the feel, the tone. I was stubborn to think that was the case because the culture of each community is slightly different. And so, there's things we do in Oilers Nation that don't take on Canucks Army. And instead of doubling down and just keep trying to force it through to that community, it's like, no, well, let's embrace what they really want. And actually, so like that was a huge aha moment for us. It's like, we kept saying we have to scale everything we do with Oilers Nation. Well, yes, we have to scale it, but it's everything's just is defined differently. And it's a different execution. It's a different tone. It's a different that. And that was something that was kind of an interesting thing because for years we just kept trying to force it through. And once we started embracing and recognizing and partnering up with people in those communities that had a solid understanding of the pulse, we started to see the growth to those other sites that are now starting to catch up and knock on the door of Oilers Nation in terms of size and traffic. So that was kind of an interesting thing, but just once again proves that like I'm just such an Edmonton focused guy. Right. So trying to be open to collaboration and some mistakes, along the way, some bad acquisitions, you try to fund yourself through growing, launching new sites and buying existing ones that haven't worked out financially for us. But we've also had some that have done extremely well and have been a huge value to the Nation network as a whole and really helped solidify and put us on the map as like a legitimate independent news company or sports news company. There's been, we're constantly trying to push the envelope on growth, and that by its nature, we're going to have some wins and some losses. But for us now, like we're willing to realize when something's a loss and just accept it and move on and not try to just coddle it and, keep trying to be the blues bar, even though you don't want to be the blues bar. Like if it's not working, just move on. Who cares? Focus on the things, double down on the things that are working, and then smoke out a new opportunity and try to make that work. But don't give it all of your energy if it's not providing the returns or the returns that you need to see from it. So it's like still, the Nation is still something we make, mistakes on, but I think every business you're constantly making mistakes, but it's just willing to acknowledge it and learn from it and then move on.
Definitely. You talked about how you had a bit of a banking background, you had business background. Did you have background on like working in the online space, creating websites, anything like that?
No, none. My business partner had a little bit. He's very interested in tech, and that would kind of push me to. So I'm like, okay, well, this is the yin and yang. So he'll have the IT background to kind of get things off the ground, and then I'll work on the business development and we'll collab on the brand development of everything and kind of go from there. So I have learned a lot during this time. One of the funniest mistakes we've actually made is, we built the network up. I don't know how many sites we were at, but we were at about 175 million network page views. So we thought this was huge. And we were able to So, and we would monetize our sites by doing direct sales, right? So every ad you saw on the site, every partnership we did was a result of a direct deal that like I did or my business partner did. And that's how we monetize the site. So then we got into this relationship to purchase hockeyfights.com, which is a very OG hockey website, an established brand in the marketplace. And with that came, its founder, who kind of opened our eyes to being like, hey, how are you monetizing your sites? Oh, well, we're just doing direct ad sales. Oh, so what about your ad network revenue? Well, what's that? So you're not getting Google AdWords, you're not getting all these things. Like, this is stuff that you just put on your site, and if you don't sell the ad, they show up and you get money for it. And we're like, well, holy cow, we've been running this company for this long and we didn't know that. We missed out on so much revenue because we didn't have that implemented for 5-6 years, 5 years, I guess, that it's almost, it's laughable. So that next year we plug it all in and we have someone who knows what he's doing based on this acquisition that we did. And he set up the network, and all of a sudden we've doubled our revenue. And we didn't really have to do anything. We just had to have someone who just knew how the world worked and just plug us into the system. But the fact that we didn't know that, because we were just so focused on what we were good at. So in that was a giant mistake. It didn't sink the company because everyone was blown away with how well we could sell our sites. But it was because, once again, going back to the passion and caring and really being able to pitch that and across the table to a potential partner. But that was something that was still to this day we just laugh about, because it's every publisher, online publisher, that is their main source of revenue. They don't even do direct ad sales. So everyone's always blown away we do direct ad deals. And that's why you built a site, so you could monetize it off the back of, the Googles and the Amazons and whatnot, all those giant ad networks out there. And we did it the complete opposite and the harder way. And then we got to plug in the easy money. That was, that was so on brand for us to make that mistake.
Well, I mean, it outlines the importance of having grassroots skills, the ability to be able to kind of knock on doors, even if they're technological doors. And then also the importance of for myself, I like to surround myself with people who have skills that are completely unlike what I would consider myself skilled at, because then they're going to be able to shine the light on what could be these wake up calls, oh wow, with very little effort we can actually have an easier go at things. To kind of gear us back in, I am curious, in all of your businesses and all of your tough obstacles in life, are there people that you've looked up to throughout all this time, role models, mentors?
Initially, no, because I don't know. I was closed-minded and was unsure to reach out to people and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, definitely now, and that was part of my personal growth is establishing that, and that's what's been helping me become better and learn more. I'm now more open to learning. So, for me, mentors, I don't have direct mentors per se. But I've got certain people that I talk to about certain different things in different areas. And then there's a lot of trusted voices, that, people I read, people I listen to, in that, that are leaders in different industries that relate to me in different industries that I look up to and kind of, listen to what they have to say, and then try to put that through my filter on what that means for what we're doing and what I could kind of create from that. So now I'm more open to searching that. One of the biggest things I did, and this isn't a mentor thing, this is more of a self-care thing, is I brought in the help of a mindfulness coach. Because especially, we virtually almost everything's about 3-4 years apart. Everything virtually started at the same time. or, you started one and 3 years later, you start another, and 3 years later, you start something else. Like, everything is still fresh and still all going on like the same trajectory. So like, there's days where like something giant was on fire with everything we're doing. And this was creating severe situations of like overwhelm for me, and not knowing how to stay focused or compartmentalize things so I can start kind of taking things off a list and just put my head down and get things done. I was just feeling consumed by all of it and not getting anything done, just spinning my wheels. So I brought in and started working with a mindfulness coach to kind of help me process stress, identify what are my triggers and mitigate my triggers, and try to just kind of keep me present and focused in my day to day, so I can be my best, most efficient self. Because when things are still early on, you have to wear a lot of hats and move the chains on a lot of things on behalf of your company until you can unlock resources to bring on smarter minds to lead certain areas of your business for you. So I was at that kind of point in on my journey, and that was something I'll point back to as one of the best things I could have done to help me kind of get to now, to where I am today, and how I operate today. It's amazing kind of what putting that effort in, and it's still a constant battle. I fight it. I still fight with it, but now I have an outlet, someone to talk to who can listen. I always have the answer, but I sometimes just don't know. It's in me, but I just don't know where to find it. And sometimes it's just dumping all of this stress onto someone, and they listen and be like, "Hey, this is what you're actually saying." Oh, okay. And then like that just diffuses everything. And then like teaching me how I can get there on my own is the biggest thing. So that was one of the big things I did on my personal journey to help be the best version and efficient version of myself in business.
Well, I mean, that's important. I'm glad you mentioned that. I saw it in your social media, and I was like, yeah, that seems like something that I would do. Like, it's tough to reach out and ask for help in that avenue, but when you're wanting to do so many different things, like that takes a toll. Like, you're going to have a lot on your mind. There's going to be things that go wrong. It's going to feel like they talk about the rise to the top can be very isolating. And like when you're building businesses, when you are trying to achieve goals, sometimes you can kind of get in your head or get overwhelmed or have too much on the mind. So hopefully people hear that, and then it's a bit of a reassurance that they can kind of dig a little deeper in their own wellness. Not everybody's going to be the same, but people will have things that they can do. One thing that stood out to me, though, is you're talking about how a lot of what you do is kind of led with your heart, and like especially with just your ties to Edmonton. Like, you're very loyal to Edmonton. And I have seen many times with your involvement with charity and with community. Recently saw your video of learning to be a princess, I think.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What kind of makes your decisions in charity? Like, there's so many people that can use support. There's so many causes to support. What is your guide that moves you in the direction that you go with the different causes that you support?
Yeah. So one of the things within Oodle Noodle is that we say Oodle Noodle loves Edmonton. That's one of our core values. If you look at our kind of 5 core values that we have on the wall, like YEG Edmonton is like one of the big bubbles on the wall. And then we go to market and we say Oodle Noodle loves Edmonton. So, we are active in the community, but it was with, no real frequency to it. But if people reached out, we'd always found a way to kind of work with them. But when the pandemic hit, this was our chance to really reinforce that statement of Oodle Noodle loves Edmonton, and to prove to everyone, we're not just saying it, we're backing it up. And so we launched with so one of the things with Oodle Noodle is we have a factory that Sunny built that supplies all of our stores with noodles, sauces, tofu, and other dry goods as our store network buying power increases. So Sunny was like, okay, I'm going to start making extra noodles every week because people are hungry and we need to help. So we started doing weekly donations to the likes of Mustard Seed and Food Bank and Yes and other food banks surrounding the Edmonton area. The area that supports us, we wanted to make sure we were going out and supporting. And it was very interesting what was happening with all that. The impact, the charities were so happy with us reaching out and coming in and providing them that food. It was and just created such a positive impact within us, and also like just really heightened the fact that we're actually helping our community and providing a positive impact for them. So it kind of led to like, well, how can we do more? Like, Sunny's already making hundreds of pounds of noodles every week that we're donating. That's great. Well, only so many charities feed our community. There's other charities out there that are doing great things to support our community in a ton of different pockets of the city and our world. And like, how can we help them? Because they rely on funding, and now funding is gone. Like the fundraising drives have gone down to zero. So we created that concept to donate a portion of in-store sales to local charities. And the reason for that was, our franchisees are hurting right now. Their sales of all, when the pandemic, going back to like the March 15th thing, some of our stores saw a 60% drop in sales. And it's on us as the franchisor to like work with them to get that back. Stand by their side when we're negotiating with their landlords to buy us a little bit of time to figure out what their store is going to look like for the next little bit. Like that's what we're there to do. So we have to help them stay alive. So for us, for the stores, like delivery is a big component of Oodle Noodle, but delivery is the most expensive sale that we have. So we want to try to find ways to support our franchisees as well. So we created this concept of come in store, and if you come in store, we'll donate 10% to a local charity, and let's kind of just see where that goes. So we started with our first charity, and we created a list, and we want to make sure we're talking to all different genres of charity. Like that's the biggest thing. It's we want to go. We want to touch as many as possible, big, small, and they don't even have to be a charity. They could just be a cause, a volunteer group, but anyone that we can identify that are doing things to benefit a segment within our community, whether it be, the Down Syndrome Society or Win House or Kids with Cancer or Positively Princess, which is the one where I dressed up as a princess, where they go and dress up as princesses and Marvel characters and visit kids who are sick at the Stollery or other hospitals, or kids in the inner city for their birthday parties that can't afford a fancy birthday party. But like identifying all those causes and making sure we're giving them some love, because they all play a big role in our city. So, for us, it's no rhyme or reason. We're open to working with everyone, and we're just out there looking. We're finding stories. People are reaching out to us, like Positively Princess. I've never heard of it. And if it wasn't for someone being like, hey, my friend is in this, do you think you could help that? And I looked like, well, of course, like, look at what they do. And like, you go and reach out to them. No one's ever reached out to them to make donations. They don't even really do fundraising. And the fact that, we said, hey, we're Oodle Noodle, like, we want to partner with you and donate a portion of our sales. Is that cool? Yeah, that's amazing. Like, and we like to shoot videos, and we do that because we like to create a lot of content from it, because it also we leverage our platform because we leverage the Oodle Noodle platform, which has got a pretty high social following, and we leverage the Oilersnation platform to make sure we get their charity out there too. So it's a huge awareness play, but also there's some good dollars coming the way. So like, oh wow, that's amazing. And they thought we were going to be coming in and donating like $200. Well, no, we're actually going to be donating like $3,000, $4,000, and that blows them away when we can do something like that. But it's created this big like just positivity amongst everything. Like for the charities we get to work with, for our customers who have been supporting us during this time, and then also for the team, the franchisees, like they're impacting their community, and so now they're feeling good. And Sonny, like our founder, like Oodle Noodle is down right now, and this is the happiest he's ever been. And like, it's just crazy, all this stuff that this has unlocked during this time. It's been like a positive, it's created a very positive experience during a very negative time that's motivating everyone to go deeper with that, but also like be happy with the job and what's going around, even though we're living in a very negative environment. So like the morale for the team has been awesome. And you know, we're making a bit of an impact. We're about to launch our announcement where we've donated since the start of COVID $100,000 to local charity, which is just crazy. And for me, like, we're extremely grateful because, as we say in all our videos, it doesn't happen without your support. But we wanted to make sure there was a reinforcement of Oodle Noodle Loves Edmonton, and just reinforcing why you should support Oodle Noodle, especially during this time. But this isn't something that's like, this is not going away. Like, we're going to stay with this type of frequency of local support forevermore, because we're seeing the impact it's causing in the community, which is the most important part. And it's just really, if anyone wants to challenge our Oodle Noodle Loves Edmonton, we can point to all this great stuff that we're doing, and we're having so much fun doing it. And yes, a lot of it's at my expense, and that's okay, because then, you know, it gives our social team, it makes their life easier to create social content. So, you know, like, there's no rhyme or reason to how we support charities, but we just want to make sure we're diverse. That's the biggest thing, right? We're not just like doing the same thing, and we're doing it, and then we're not just like dealing with just the big charities. It's also the small charities, the Positively Princess, you know, and then going to the big ones like the Win House, like, all important causes, doing great things, but like, we want to acknowledge all of them. And so we are open to dealing with anyone who is doing anything of volunteer. It doesn't have to be a registered charity. It can be a not-for-profit or a volunteer group. But if you're doing things to support parts of our community, we're there to help. So yeah, that's been kind of the positivity we've been able to unlock during COVID, is that. So and looking forward to doing more of it.
Well, I think that's an incredible part of anybody's like business journey, like even in like the first couple of years, like, to find the ways that we can all give back. I mean, it gives us appreciation for what we do. It helps us connect with people. It helps us kind of put out our core values. Like, you talked about Edmonton being a core value, and like, this is how you prove it. And it's, if somebody sells a product and they say they're passionate about it, it's like you have to show why. You can't just all talk kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Something that I ask all of my guests is I get you to give my audience a challenge for the day. And so it can be anything, just something that might put them out of their comfort zone, or something that might just kind of like help them see things differently. It can be anything that you want, and all you have to do is say your challenge for the day is, and just let them have it.
Oh, wow. Let me think on that. Let's circle back to that. I bet you have people that just have one just like that. Yeah, let's circle back to that.
For sure. So the other thing that I ask people is for a piece of advice that kind of just stands out to them. And on this one, don't overthink it. It's, every answer is a good one. And it's, if you could give one piece of advice to someone on how to live their life to the fullest, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, it's so cliche, but make sure that you're doing something you're passionate about, honestly, because if you don't, you're going to have a lot of bad days because you're not doing what you want to be doing. So make sure you are pursuing that, and it doesn't have to be a business. It can be a career. It can be a lot of things, and also to double down on that, making sure that you're giving yourself time and space for yourself. One of the big things for me is I let everything consume me and overwhelm me without willing to. I know what my challenge is for everyone. Without willing to share my weaknesses. That is something I challenge people to do. Share your weaknesses with others. So if you have a weakness, share it with someone, confide in someone, and you will be surprised with how transformational that is. For me, I did not share my weaknesses to the point where, yes, I sought a mindfulness coach. But what I didn't tell you is it led to me having a panic attack. And I thought I had a heart attack. And I didn't I pushed myself that far to that point where I was finally willing to admit something's wrong. And it is okay to have weaknesses. We all have them. But the minute you are willing to address that you do, the better you will be for it. And if you always have an understanding, this is an area I'm weak, then you can seek help from another person where that area is a strength for them. And that goes a long way. So that would be my challenge. I don't know if that's something you can do in a day, but don't be afraid to share weakness. Vulnerability for me, the sharing vulnerability has been one of the biggest strengths I think I now have. And it's amazing the conversations it unlocks and kind of positive experience it unlocks, and also the mental sanity it unlocks and the stress that it relieves. So, yeah. Well, so I kind of sandwiched the two together there. Sorry.
Yeah, it worked perfectly. It honestly sounded like something I would say. So I'm happy. Like I have no complaints here. But that basically wraps up our episode today. So I would like to thank you so much for taking the time to join me today.
Oh, I appreciate you reaching out. I'm happy I was happy to have this chat with you.